Wisdom. How are we? I thought I'd do a late night talk right now, where I am in Australia at the moment, and I felt, there's just been this sadness going on in the United States, in Texas at the moment, where, this young man, 18 years old, living a life in isolation and basically, spending a whole time online, apparently playing video games, had decided to, do a school shooting, and then the authorities took his life. Now, his mother was a drug addict, kicked him out of home. I was reading in the New York Post today, and and then you get the left, the Joe Biden, who wants to get all political about firearms and guns. Now, we had a massacre in Australia called the Port Arthur Massacre. This was in the 90s. This was, I would have been a little kid, and then it was John Howard at the time that decided to disarm, with inferior complex, the Australian population to a right of a firearm. Now, this happened, Port Arthur Massacre in Australia was on the 28th to the 29th of April 1996. It was a mass shooting, okay. Now, you get a lot of the left-wing media blaming, firearms themselves and wanting to disarm people. Clearly, this young man who committed this horrible crime was suffering, mental health problems. Okay. Robb Elementary School on Tuesday, was pretty sad. He wasn't close to his father. And he had problems with parents as well. Has this been a cause of the pandemic? COVID-19, yeah, has caused a mental health crisis. Now, why would this, young man, 18 years old, want to shoot up a massacre? I mean, he was bullied in school, clearly. I think he You know, the mother was struggling with drug abuse. The father was never in his life. You know, he dropped out of high school basically, and he was bullied. Now, as a parent, you know, to find out that your son's done this, or someone in your family done this, you must be just devastated. You know that. I mean, I'm reading this from the New York Post. Okay. Obviously, you know, the left want to get all political about how the police handled it, but the police were doing their job. You know, what the press is saying, that the police officers who handled this were too long. You know, it's yeah, complicated. That left-wing media want to get all political and telling, you know, trying to put the police down on how they do their job. Okay. Now, this young man, like I said, was suffering mental illness as well. To do such a very bad, you know, thing like this, clearly there's a mental health crisis on the rise in the world right now. And then we got to think, well, the left want to say, oh, we got to disarm the population, we got to take away the guns. You know, I would think if someone's owning a firearm, they should have a police check, a criminal record check, you know, and a mental health assessment to be able to carry a firearm. You know, now I know in the United States they're very loose, because I've been to Las Vegas, and yeah, you pretty much buy an AK-47 there and walk out. Now, that's all I'm trying to say is, if someone was going to own a firearm, they should be having a police check, you know, a criminal record check, and a mental health assessment. Because you don't want someone who's mentally ill. And this is what happened. This young man just went to a firearm store and just, yeah, they sell it. They sold it to him, and there you go. Now, John Howard, he was a Liberal Prime Minister who pretty much disarmed the Australian population of like semi-automatic. But you look here, to have a firearm, a gun in Australia, firearm, it's too much paperwork, it's too much politics, and it's too much fart-assing around. And you just think, fuck this, you know. All I can just say is pray for Texas, you know. I would love to travel to Texas one day, you know. But I guess we just got to cut the bullshit aside, cut all this politics aside. Mental health is more dangerous than, 50 years ago. Because this young man even reported, apparently, to counsellors, and they did nothing. So if he went and spoke up to a mental health professional, and a mental health professional did nothing for this young man who went on a mass shooting in Texas, well, shame on you. Because what you should have done was get on top of the problem straight away and get this young man assessed in a psych ward before this happened. So clearly something dodgy's gone on there. I don't know what I'm talking about is a controversial topic, but hey, I like to tell the truth on my podcast, and I like to speak of freedom of speech, because this is very sad. Alright. Not only that, there's a war in Ukraine that's affected inflation as well. People losing their lives. We've just got a new Prime Minister now, Anthony Albanese, on the left. We'll see how that goes. So what do we do to prevent this from happening? Was this young man taken seriously when he spoke up about what he was going through? That this should have all been stopped before it became a problem. I'm telling you this. Okay? Mental illness is dangerous for people, and I'm someone who suffers from mental health problems as well. You can see we've got a guest waiting. And it's scary. Hello, Malcolm. How are you? Yeah,
I'm
good.
breathing.
How are you?
I'm breathing. I can't complain, man.
So what's happened in Texas? I've heard about. I read it in the New York Post about this young boy who was having mental illness.
Yeah. An 18-year-old boy. And it basically went into an elementary school and claimed the lives of 19 children and 2 adults.
Yeah, pretty bad. And he's lost his life too.
He did lose his life.
And as I was saying before, this young boy actually spoke up and said, I am suffering these thoughts, and nothing was done to him.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Well, this is what mental illness is doing to people, Malcolm.
Well, I mean that I know, but I didn't know that he spoke up about this and nobody did nothing.
Hmm.
Was there, like, was he making posts on social media, or was he talking to
Yeah,
a counselor or something about this? I didn't
there,
really
there,
delve further into the story.
there were posts on social media. This was reported by Fox News.
Oh, okay.
I haven't looked into it. I just read through the New York Post and keep up to date. But I just felt called to talk about this because he was spending a lot of time in isolation for starters. You know what COVID's done, and the mother's a drug addict and kicked him out of home. What's going on, Malcolm? Why are people doing stuff like this? Mass shootings.
Well, that's not for me to analyze. I'm not a psychoanalyst or a
Mm,
psychotherapist, but I can only make an assumption that he was dealing with some things that were not really that people in his inner circle didn't pay attention to, and I think it
mm,
falls under the parents, in my personal opinion, to see if their son is exhibiting any abnormal characteristics, behavioral characteristics. And I think it's
mhm,
important to have a proactive dialogue with your children regarding their mental state, because it's important to know if what you're trying to do as a parent is, I guess, uh, in the betterment of your kids' future. Of course, I mean, despite the fact the guy was 18, I can only
mm,
surmise that he didn't have a good dialogue with his parents, especially being that, like you mentioned, his mother had a substance abuse issue, which is
mhm,
another issue with and of itself that stems from something that she is also dealing with as well. So now when you have
mhm.
someone that's dealing with something on top of something that their kid is dealing with, then collateral damage unfortunately follows.
Yeah, and he actually shot his grandmother as well.
Oh yes, yes, that was also mentioned in the story as well. Before he went to the school, he did take his grandmother's life, right?
Yeah, and and you get all the news media wanting to get all political about how the police handle it. Well, they're doing their job.
Well, there are certain media sources that have been trying to spin the story in a certain direction that um, could indicate something else on behalf of the NRA. Like the NRA is going to be holding a meeting, I believe, actually today, um, about 5 hours away from where the shooting initially occurred. And one of the
Mhm,
most biggest beneficiaries is Senator Ted Cruz. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they plan on doing in regards to that. Plus, it's as sad as it is to say that this shooting is also another shooting that occurred 2 weeks after a shooting that occurred in Buffalo, New York, that claimed the lives of 13 African American people
mhm,
as well. Now, I don't know how old that person was, but yeah, that was also tragic. I think we need to ask a bigger question: where, what are we doing to help contribute to mental health in a productive fashion that helps kids, young growing kids, understand themselves in a better way? Because some of these kids, I can only surmise, are lost,
mhm,
disoriented, confused, scared, sad, alone. They feel alienated from society.
mhm,
And I can't honestly say that it was primarily the pandemic that did this, but the pandemic did induce this for sure. It exacerbated the issue even more because mental health was always something. The numbers were stagnant at one point. In 2012, there was a poll done as far as depression, but it became more prevalent in the wake of social media platforms and all the societal challenges and stuff going on, and the shootings that happened prior, and people being scared about like it just like cyberbullying was on a rise for quite some time, especially in the wake of social media platforms. But that was something that
mhm,
our generation is grappled with, because we were the generation, more specifically Gen X and Gen Zs, uh, that were more accustomed to this. I can't speak on behalf of the baby boomers, but when
mhm,
you deal with a lot of systemic oppression, or the fact that at one point society didn't focus on mental health, um, well, you have a buildup of other issues. Other than that, I mean, you have parents that don't really know how to discipline their kids, um,
mhm,
and they're not as present because they're preoccupied with trying to put bread on the table with working. So now they're absent from being able to be there with their kids, and other people are taking care of the kids
mhm,
for them. Like, there's so many things that go into play here that could be a reason as to why mental health is adversely affected now more than ever. But it's crazy how, in the wake of a shooting, a mass shooting, that people decide to automatically say, oh, we need to now focus on mental health. This is something that we should have been focusing on for quite some time. It shouldn't have to take for a tragedy to happen for there to be focus on mental health.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Joe Biden, I think, yeah, this week did a press conference, and he'll just start to blame the, what do they call it? The NRA or something?
Yes, the National Rifle Association.
And the right. But, you got to understand, antidepressants are on the rise, and antidepressants can cause mental health problems too. You got to be careful.
Yes, mental health. Well, these antidepressants, they basically help with hormonal distribution in the body, which help
Mm,
regulate hormones. So when you have that coming into play, in addition to the fact that these kids might not be eating, because it's essentially these substances in certain countries are used for different formats. For instance, psychostimulants in the U.S. are in the UK, they're used as dietary supplements to help people with losing weight, and it
mm,
varies all across the board as far as the spectrum of, because they can have multiple different purposes. So the thing is some of these substances, they're stooping the appetite. They're making these kids like zombies. Like, I mean, I used to be prescribed to psychostimulants when I was younger, and it adversely impacted my mental health because I didn't feel like myself. I didn't
mm,
feel normal. I was not happy. I was zombified. I couldn't think for myself. My brain was always foggy, and I was more sad than I should have been. And then it took for me to finally say, or to lie to my parents and tell them that I was taking it when I wasn't taking it, to feel normal.
mm,
And then when I finally broke my silence to my doctor, and I was like, she was like, "Have you been taking this? Because it seems like you have not been." I was like, "I have
mm.
not been." And my mom was upset, but it was relieving because she finally took me off of the medication and they put me on a different medication at the time. But it was a lot more relieving than what they had me on. And I feel like sometimes when you have these kids that can't make decisions on behalf of themselves, and you have these parents, these paranoid parents that decide that it's in the better interest of their kids' health to put them on these prescriptions, that they don't even know how it's impacting these kids, it's unfair. It truly is, which is why it should be that should also within of itself be monitored is the prescriptions that they're prescribing these kids, because some kids won't speak up and others will, or some can't speak up for themselves and the parents will speak for them. But how do you know
Mm.
how these substances are impacting your kid's body, their hormonal distribution, their brain, their cognition? How do you know that? I mean, you can conduct tests, but it's up to the kid to speak on behalf of themselves for their health, on how the medication makes them feel, which is why there's tons of substances out there that are, as all it takes nowadays is to speak with a doctor and they'll go, okay, well, what do you think works for you? It's about testing and trying, trial and error. It's about working and changing with what needs to work and what doesn't work. But some parents don't want to
Yeah.
explore those options, as sad as it is to say.
How does the military feel about antidepressants?
Well, they're all for it. I mean, the thing is you have people that have served for 10 plus years that have seen some really crazy stuff, dude.
Yeah.
And how do you think they handle it besides becoming a belligerent alcoholic? Well, antidepressants. But there are counselors, there's a team of people specialized in this field of mental health to help people that grapple with understanding reality or just grapple with seeing some very messed up stuff. I mean, I know a
Mm,
few
mm,
Joes at my unit that are not the same. Like they've gone on a deployment and they've came back a different kind of person. Or it happens to be in basic training as well. Like when I joined the military and I went to basic training, I was seeing people that were having panic attacks, like freaking out from PTSD. Because here's the thing with PTSD, trauma comes in all different forms. It doesn't have to be
mm,
from just like, as some people depict, helicopters flying through the sky and all that stuff. Everyone processes trauma differently. They go through different forms of trauma. So when they're put in an environment where they basically have to acclimate in an uncomfortable fashion, especially when it's happening really fast, there's a lot going on. There's stimulus overload. To some people, it's more than they can handle, right? So now they have to adapt, or they don't. And then they go to psych ward, or they go to a facility, because what they do is they'll tell you to go to facility, and they'll put you on medications, or you'll go through counseling, and you'll speak with a psychiatrist. And oftentimes nowadays they don't want to deal with the mental health, so they will discharge you, give you a clinical discharge, but they'll recommend that you go to the VA, the Veterans Association, and seek counseling. Because at one point in time, I will admit that I was dealing with mental health issues when I was in serving, but eventually I eventually learned to deal with it and grow through it and adapt. And it was because I was overwhelmed with a lot going on. It wasn't just the military, it was just life in general. And that was actually ironically in the talk that I just hosted about an hour or so ago. And if you wish to revisit that, you can, because I was also talking about mental health. But yeah, man, I mean, it's something that most people, or some people, don't feel confident talking about. And I think that's, once again, not trying to, like, trying to like boast a reputation, but I think that there's a little bit of pride in there. I think you have to put that aside, so that you can seek the appropriate help that you need in order to move forward in life.
Well, that's it. I mean, the mental health wards in Australia are turning away patients because it's just so overloaded since COVID's happened.
So they're turning away patients at the expense of what? For what avail?
Emergency, mental health, because COVID has put a lot of stress on the hospital system.
It has. It definitely has. There's
You
no
know,
there's no denying that. But the thing is mental health is something that should always be focused on. I mean, how do you expect doctors to grapple with the chaotic environments that they're put into? How do you expect firefighters? How do you expect police officers that had to, unfortunately, you know, be put in a very uncomfortable situation? How do you expect veterans to grapple with the experiences that they've endured? I think people in various lines of work deal with different kinds of trauma. So for a hospital to not prioritize that, or to put it into consideration, or to just stop, incorporating that program, it's absurd if you ask me.
yeah, this is not all hospitals. We're talking the government, the public hospitals, because they've been so short staffed. Nurses are getting sick with COVID. Doctors, and it's 5-6 hours waiting in emergency. It's not very nice.
It isn't. I think that's where we need to ask ourselves: how can we, as a citizen, contribute towards this cause to improve? What can we do? Because it doesn't seem as though the government's stepping in to help out that much.
Oh, not really.
I think that's where it's important to hold spaces like this, to have conversations like this, to engage in, to allow people to feel comfortable.
What I can suggest is just get outside in nature and exercise and just get outside in the sun instead of sitting on, instead of watching Netflix all day or scrolling through
But to some
social media.
people, that's their comfort zone. And what happens with the brain is, when you're put into an uncomfortable situation, it reverts back to a space where you felt comfortable. So to some people, when the pandemic hit, and I'm just going to use the pandemic as an example, some people were okay with being at home and doing absolutely nothing, or ignoring texts and isolating themselves. And distancing themselves from society and being in a comfortable little huddle of their room. And others were going crazy. I mean, I read an article
Mm.
that talked about introverts versus extroverts. And when the pandemic hit, extroverts were freaking out. I mean, I'm an extrovert. So when I didn't get the social stimulus that I was used to, I felt stimulus deprived. I felt isolated. I felt constrained to just one area and that I couldn't do anything. I was like, I was getting kind of depressed, actually. And they said
Mm.
that suicidal ideation, it affected 1 in 4 teenagers and adolescents. And that was another study that I read. I was reading a lot during the pandemic. A lot was going on. So yeah, dude,
Oh, for sure.
it's definitely something to factor in. But to some people, it's a source of comfort. But you're right. As a way to persevere, try to switch up your schedule. Try to be more active, because I feel as though the devil's lurking when you're letting your thoughts roam freely. So
Oh, of course. I'm someone who suffers from mental health problems. I take antidepressants, and yeah, well, during the pandemic, I wrote a lot of music. I was YouTubing and did the podcast to keep busy because you just didn't want to turn the news on.
yeah, I mean, it was negative. I mean, you would see a death toll like like countdown thing. Like I that was and like too much for anyone. Like
Mm.
if you had a rational mind, that was too much to be looking at. Like who wants to see that? I mean, it's informative, but in the same instance, come on now, you're invoking
Mm.
fear on people, and to what avail? What are we learning from this?
Mm.
You know, Dr. Biden, President Biden's wife, had a press conference the other day, and she said one of the highlights from this press conference was she was like, if there's one thing that we learned from the pandemic, is that a lot of lives were lost. No crap. Like no, like what? What do you think? I mean, a pandemic breaks out, shutting down, and you choose to shut down everything. Well,
Yeah.
I gotta stop. Let me. I'm going on a roll here, but it's just unfortunate that there was much more that could have been done as a result, and there wasn't enough efforts to try to facilitate this process. Instead, it dragged out and created more issues than there needed to be, thus resulting in the problems that we're dealing with now, with a kid, an 18-year-old kid with an assault rifle, going into a school, claiming these lives of
Mm.
these innocent people. That's
Mm.
that should show that we clearly have a lot more work to do. But the question is
Yeah.
are they really going to do work besides offering baseless condolences and not putting any action behind this? It's one thing to say sorry, but it's another thing to put action behind that sorry. Or not even sorry, but that it's sad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you got a good point. You got a very good point. What you're saying. I mean, clearly, the pandemic has been hard on mental health in Australia. You know, yeah.
How do you deal with your mental health?
I podcast on wisdom. I meditate. I do breath work. I love my gym, going working out. I love watching boxing or UFC if it's on, and hiking and yoga.
You
Definitely,
keep yourself pretty
that's what
active.
I do.
I admire that.
I have to. What about yourself?
For me, because I'm a busy thinker and I can become my worst enemy is my chronic overthinking.
Mm.
I keep myself proactive with yes workouts, any tasks that I can provide. I'm always reading, because for me, reading is like another way in which I can escape.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read like fiction as much as I once used to, but I enjoy reading nonfiction more than anything. I don't try to look at negative news all the time. I enjoy reading like random stuff like fruit tips or like I read a random article yesterday about maybe I can send this to you, but it was about
Mm-hmm.
not making your bed in the morning sometimes helps. It helps with because there's a lot of moisture buildup from your body heat at night
Yeah.
when you sleep, and moisture can build bacteria. So when you don't make your bed in the morning and you let your bed air out in the day, it helps out air that moisture so that there isn't bacteria buildup. Um, Despite the fact that I wash my comforter and sheets once a week, right? It still is reassuring to know that there's another way to hedge against that. And I guess I can understand the theory for people that live in warm weather states as opposed to those that live in cold weather states where it's mostly colder. But I guess it depends on how you sleep at night. But that was a random article
Mm.
that I read. It was very interesting. There was a lot more science to back it up, but it was random. But that's ultimately what I do. I also produce music, and
Good on
I
you.
have a little studio for myself, so I enjoy composing samples and melodies and ballads and just being in my own little space and comfort. And I enjoy having conversations with people on social audio applications such as Wisdom, and honestly, just hanging out with people as well is great. It's good to have a drink with people and be social. I
Oh
mean, if you
yeah.
drink, of course.
I mean, I've got articles on Medium about music. I've started doing some blogging, and I just share my opinion about the music industry. That's been fun.
That's good, man. That's good. You contribute towards the community. The music community will thank you for that. I thank you on behalf of the music community. You know what I was just thinking, and this is just a random fleeting thought. For those that don't socialize as often, they tend to have a negative view on life versus those that do socialize more frequently. And I feel as though with children that are isolated, and
Yeah.
I was listening to a show the other day, and they were like, to school, for some kids, school is a safe haven. Like, they
Mm.
go to school to escape their home situations, especially for kids that are uh, in difficult situations that have a difficult home life, right? And some people look for that social atmosphere or environment versus those that don't. And I feel as though for kids that were put into a kind of home learning environment, or just perhaps in an environment where they don't get to engage with people, I guess I can only imagine that it's impacted their psyche in a way that makes them feel as though, or feel less inclined to engage in human interaction.
That's
So
correct. That
that's
is
that's
correct.
something to ponder on.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Yeah. Look, I never had the best childhood growing up either. I never really enjoyed school. Um, but yeah, we've seen a lot of poverty in Australia as well. Kids are being neglected in their homes, going to school hungry. And you think, why? We live in a Western world and yet there's poverty.
And famine.
Yeah. How does this happen?
The big people at the top don't want to provide resources.
Yeah. And you work hard, you pay your taxes, and this is what you get.
Question is how do we pivot from this? Because
Yeah.
we can sit here and express our disgust towards the lack of effort on behalf of the people that have the influence and the resources to do so, or
Hmm.
we can take action. And I choose to take action and to
Hmm.
see what I can do to contribute towards any causes, especially if it deals with mental health. If it means having a conversation with somebody, sitting down and speaking with them, speak from love, come from a place of love. Or if it means donating to a food bank, which I was doing a lot during the pandemic. I mean, I was on a food bank mission, and I enjoyed it. I actually almost worked at that food bank and got a job there, but you know I didn't have in my schedule at the time to be that committed after the mission ended. But I enjoyed it. There was like cars lined up. I was putting boxes in cars. I was even giving them a little extra food on the side. I was like, why not take some more bread? I don't mind. Have it. Take it, please. You know. that was done for me because I grew up in a very like an impoverished situation, and I'll never forget. My teacher brought me a box of food and clothes to school. She didn't have to do this. She didn't have to. She went on her own fruition, on her intuition, like on her fruition. I can't even pronounce words, but she did it on her own accords. She saw that I was struggling, that I was going through something, and that at the time my parents could not provide. And she went on and she provided that for me, and I couldn't have, I was the happiest camper. And she even went above and beyond and enrolled me in this program, Shop with the Cop, and I shopped with the Cop, and they let me buy. Like she really was taking care of me, and that's why I say school to some kids is a safe haven. It's unfortunate that they have to deal with the paranoia and the anxiety of Alice training. You know what Alice training is?
No, what's that?
So ALIS training for American school districts is basically the kind of training you would engage in the event that you encounter an active shooter situation, a school shooter situation. And it's a training that they put these kids through in the event that a school shooting happens. But, you know, who's to expect that to happen nowadays? Because you see the, these kids just walk into the school aimlessly and just mow down these people. So how do you even prepare for something you would least expect? So it's just unfortunate that these kids are put through anxiety at the expense of people that are not in a healthy mind space. And I think that's where we should start asking people how their day is, or speaking with people out of love. When I worked in retail, I would always ask random people, "How's your day going? How are you doing?
Mm,
What are you doing today?" And if I can make you smile, if I can make them smile, that's great because you never know if you're saving a life. You never know what that person was planning on doing after they left. You don't know.
mm, mm. Yeah, exactly. You know.
I know I made a lot of points there and said a lot of things, but there's just so much that goes into it. This conversation could extend forever, Stephen, because it's
Oh, this was
important.
awesome for you to stop by on the show tonight for me, and I really want to thank you for that.
Absolutely, man. And if you do want to reach out, please do not hesitate to reach out to me through back channels, man. You're always welcome. I love having conversations with you. Always, I love to be one of the first guests to hop on your show and speak with you, man. It's always great. Okay. I want you to
You
keep
too.
doing great things, man. Love you. Hope you take care. All right.
Will too.
Peace out.
You too. Send me that Truth Social when you got time, Malcolm, because that would be great. That would be wonderful as well. Now I can see we got another guest who's waited very patiently this whole time. We'll see how this goes.
Good
Okay, hello.
morning. Good morning. How are you?
Yes,
Yes,
how are
how are
you?
you? I'm great. I love what you guys were talking about, and I like your title, "Mental Health Crisis Plus Texas Shooting."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's what we got going on in the world today.
yes, and there's so much to talk about, but I want to piggyback off of both of you guys when you were talking, and then
Uh-huh,
just add a little bit more. And so we live in a I would say, a high stressed environment. And so now
uh-huh,
with the shooting and everything, um, we get where, and I'm just going to speak for myself because my, like your guest says, my safe zone is prayer, the Bible, reading. I'm a talker. I'm an extrovert and an introvert. So I get my
uh-huh,
people doses. I love people. I truly love people, no matter what color, no matter what disability, ability. I just love people. But I do
uh-huh,
know I have to get refilled, and that's when I'm in my house and I'm just quiet in my house. I'm more quiet in the house than I was outside. So then you hear all of this shooting and everything, and then you get to, and this is the part where I'll speak for myself. So like the
uh-huh,
Texas guy when he was shooting, automatically in whatever group setting you are, whatever ethnic side of the fence you on, you think, okay, he got shot down. So he was either Hispanic or he was black. okay, he didn't get shot, so he was either white or something else. When that other
Mm-hmm.
incident, when the other guy just kept shooting and they just pretty much took him out and walking stuff like that. So that make added stress. And the thought is when you do harm, no matter what color, you should be punished. And
Mm.
if you're going to do for one group for the other, do it for all, not for a certain group. So that's added stress on that too. And you want to look at it as a criminal, but not think, okay, one person is human, one person is not. When you get to see and you're at
Mm.
an onset, that your mind, in the heat of it, can say, okay, I'm going to shoot him. Okay, I'm not. I'm going to give that person a little bit of time. And so that's what I want to just
Mm-hmm.
talk about. That puts in the pot a more pot that is unlike the melting pot that is America is. We're definitely a melting pot. And so I'm so glad you're on this. And to hear earlier you guys say, even in the doctors, hospitals, and mental wards, that it's just too many people and they can't even house them. And like your guest said, that is should be an ongoing thing. It should be.
Mm.
And also, in our culture, I'll speak just for myself and not speaking for all, that we as people of color in general, to talk about mental health. It's just something we don't talk about. It's just something that is an elephant in the room. You just keep it moving. It's not there. 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 Whereas other cultures, they'll say, "Hey, something's wrong. I'm feeling a certain kind of way. I think I need help." You know what I'm saying? So I get what it's.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think people are too afraid to speak up about mental health problems, and you got to understand. Um, there's a lot of psychologists out there that I I don't think are well trained or they don't understand people. And if this young man spoke up and said, "Hey, I'm feeling these thoughts," and they did nothing, well, shame on those mental health practitioners for not taking action straight away.
Hmm.
Is what I think.
Yeah.
And
So I'm sorry.
and they study hard. They study the mind for, I don't know, 4 years. But why are we? Is mental health getting worse
Yeah. So
than
yeah,
it ever
that's
was before?
yeah. So we I think we look at it both ways, as you said. We look at it like, oh, we don't do about it. Everybody's stressed out. To when before maybe they medicated them a little bit too much, but they had them stabilized. But at the same time, you get the stigmatism, like on TV and anything, as far as mental health, that they're going to
Mm,
automatically have you so drugged up that you're not going to be able to know who you are, and it's always drug dependent versus having a plan to keep you on, to get you on your way. I'm not saying
mm,
all, but just the stigmatism now to, like, everybody has issues, everybody has stress.
mm. Trauma as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, during the isolation, I mean, sitting, on a computer all day and, binge watching Netflix or Disney Plus. I know if I watch Disney Plus for too long, I just start to get restless, agitated. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Brain's just getting too stimulated, you know.
Yeah, so that, like the pandemic, like you guys were saying earlier, we can get we those who were extroverts, introverts, vice versa, flip flop became, like for me when the pandemic shut down, I'd be in the house, so that was nothing for me. It was like, hey, this is the norm. What? And for some people that could not go outside or be around people, except if I needed something from the store, I'm like, oh, I need to get out. I need to. That's when I start feeling it. But I couldn't
Mm,
venture out like others. And so we talked about school a little bit too, Stephen. Uh,
yeah.
Remember those kindergartens that were in 2019, 2020, whenever the pandemic started, those kindergartners had never been in a school setting. They started off online.
Yeah.
So the 2020, 2021 kids, and to go into a building, that really, that's what got me. I was like, wow. And I was like, these kindergartners never been in a school building. To now, things are happening in a school building. I wonder how they feel.
Mm. Yeah, good. It's a good point because homeschooling, honestly, kids just don't learn anything
Hmm.
sitting on a laptop on Zoom all day. It's very boring.
Yeah, and that interaction is what they needed. And so, still, even though we're things has been lifted as far as the mask and everything, so before that, the kids, because my grandson, I had to be a pandemic emergency pandemic teacher at the time. My
Hmm.
grandson, who is now in the military, he was 11th grader, rising senior, so I had to teach him, but obviously he was doing his own work. To my he was third fourth grade then, between third and fourth grade. He did not like being on there. He didn't understand it. It was just so boring, like you said. And then he got the hang of it because he had to have a year and a half of it, so they was able to do technology. That was the positive part of it. And then they interact with the teacher. And but I thought about the teachers as well. They had to go into high gear to learn this stuff. Some of them in my
Yeah.
age group in their 60s, and just use computer for basic stuff. But then Zoom had already been in place, and Zoom became very popular. They knew, it's like they knew the future. Zoom knew the future. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
that,
they did. I mean, I use Zoom to do my podcast, but yeah, they did get very popular.
yeah.
So social audio actually got very popular during the pandemic. I don't know now, but wisdom's growing, which is good. That's what
Yeah,
I
I
can
love
see.
this form. I love this form. Stephen, do you think that we are more social now because we are social on these platforms, or you think that makes us become less social because we have these platforms?
I think we're more social now, but we're doing it from a long distance. I'm in Australia, you're in America, but we don't have the human contact that we once used to.
Hmm.
You know. But at least social audio has helped people socialize more, I think.
Hmm.
That's just
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah. And then I see it from two standpoints, and I'm in Virginia, Newport News, Virginia.
Hmm.
And I see it from two standpoints because I've been on both side of it, coming from being social to being from physically social. Um, the kids were again, I'm talking about in the school sector, that the children were used to playing socially. That was the thing, like your other caller. I don't know why I'm calling it caller, but the other person that was on before that. Being social, coming from a home of poverty, and then that's where you get your meal at. Because I grew up poor, and so
Hmm.
that's where I got my meal at. That's where I got my social at. Even though we had a big family, 11 people, we got to socialize at home. And that was a way of, like I said, getting a breakfast and a lunch, and then go home and then play. And you're almost getting that. And so that went from being able to play outside to now moving forward to the pandemic to don't touch, don't play, don't move, don't do this, don't, to it became
Mm.
so awkward for us adults, but for the kids it was too, because even though pandemic said don't touch, do you know how hard it was to keep those kids away from each other?
Yeah, they did that in Australia too. The government vaccine mandates. Thank God they're not around anymore. But it was just, oh my God, the most ridiculous rules. Uh, you know, if you had a little cough, the doctor didn't even want to see you. They tell you to go get a COVID test. It just got ridiculous.
Yeah.
The people
Yes.
just
Yes.
get fed up with it. I mean, people are still getting this virus, even being boosted, and I think society just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I will.
sort
I
of.
wish. Yeah, because it's so different. It's just we can look at each other and we like, okay, don't touch me. Let's do hand pound, air high fives. I don't know about you. Where germs was, we got our high doses of germs. Germs was always around. I'm not saying don't take this lightly. It has happened, like you said. You and your guest said earlier. We've lost a lot of people. We've lost a lot of
Yeah.
people, didn't know what to do. Get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. I like you, like you. Then we're fighting over who should get it, who shouldn't get it. You getting upset. I'm moving away, family breaking up. You didn't get the vaccine, so I don't want you over my house. And this is blood family.
Yeah.
I don't know if we, it seems like something that's supposed to protect us becomes an enemy as a human core. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know about our world. I don't know.
I just hope that we can have a change and take action, like Malcolm said before. Take
Hmm.
action
Hmm.
and move on from this, Ellen,
Hmm. I think we just got to
because
start off with the care, like you both were saying. We got to care
mm,
and be
you know,
that village,
and
like it's everybody's problem.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously you heard about the war in Ukraine at the moment that's going on.
No, I have not because I'm like, your guest, you said his name was Malcolm. I don't listen. I get my news in little tiny droplets. Like I'm on my
Hmm.
phone and then maybe CNN app will just sprinkle something down. I look at the heading,
Hmm.
read the heading, and I'm good. Okay, let me pray about it. Okay, let me care. But just to
Hmm.
engulf, one time I engulfed myself so much in what was happening early on in the pandemic when there was pandemic time, and then it turned into Black Lives Matter, and it turned into a whole bunch of stuff when we was in the heat of what's going on. And so I
Mm,
engulfed myself for about 3 days. I was drained. It was 3 or 4 days. I was not myself. I was looking at people, but
mm,
I had to pray my heart back into the state of loving and caring. So hatred wanted to rise, but I'm not one of hate. I think it takes so
mm,
much energy to hate than to love. And then when hate
mhm,
grasps your heart, you become a person that the world turns you to be. And so I refused that. So I had to back off. I had to pray and ask Lord to help me mentally, physically, to not be a catalyst for that type of stuff. It drained me. I can't. I can't. I really can't. Even like Steve Kerr, remember? I'm sorry,
mhm,
yeah, Kerr. I may have said the first thing wrong. And he was given a time to talk about his game. He couldn't. He couldn't. He said, "I can't.
mm,
I can't. I can't. I'm done. What is it going to take?" And now he has a petition for 5,000 signatures. The last time I seen it was 4,000 something signatures signed for that bill of gun laws.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are very hard and difficult times
Yes.
that we have where we
I,
are.
yeah, I think like what you're doing, Stephen, and having guests, and like you said his name is Malcolm, right?
Yeah, Malcolm, he's on the show quite a fair bit.
Yeah. So what Malcolm was saying, we got to care and be that village, and have these forums and respectable form. I think we lost the art of allowing people to speak their own truth, whether we disagree,
Mm,
and just hear
mm.
one another out. Like you're hearing me now, and I thank you for allowing me to come up. You could have just said, "No, I'm not letting her up," but you allowed me to be heard, and I thank you for that.
No, and thanks for being on the podcast as well. It's always good to talk to people on the other side of the world, and that's what's good about social audio.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I can go on and on. I'm a huge talker, and can I tell you a little bit about me myself?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I am a mother for my oldest is I got 36, 34, 32, 24-year-old son, 19-year-old grandson, and a now 11-year-old grandson. So I am artsy, all into books, into interviewing authors and stuff like that. And so it keeps me still socializing and still like grounded. I'll say people grounded because I think we can get off balance when it comes to just reaching out and caring. And I'm the type of person that I'm going to let you be you. I think what we try to do
Mm,
as a people is like, I'm talking to you now, and I have no right to meet you and ask you to, uh, like form into me. I don't want a lot of Ellens. I want Stephen to be him, everybody to be
mm-hmm,
themselves. I think that's where we lose our identity because we
mm-hmm,
want to know, okay, when it comes, this is a perfect example, I think, is when it comes to singing, you can have a new artist that come out, they have their own
mm-hmm,
originality, but you want them to sound like Mariah in order to be accepted into the world. So that's the same way I
mm.
look at it as when I meet somebody, I'm respecting them, their boundaries, and let them be themselves. They don't need to be Ellen. They just need to be themselves.
Well, that's what you have to be. Be yourself. Don't copy what media tells you to do.
Yes.
Be you, and that's it. Be you. Be your own brand.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a musician, composer. I found my own style. Sure, people critique it, but I know what I'm writing is my true work
Mm.
and my passion.
So you play instruments, or you write?
I used to be a clarinetist. Uh, I used to play guitar, and now I write
Mm-hmm.
music. I've got it on Spotify
I'm
and
gonna have to
all the
listen to it.
streaming platforms. Yeah, definitely check it out when you can.
So what do you have, like more self-conscious music, or is it rock, or what type of music is it, or genre of music?
Film, instrumental,
Ooh.
electronic, orchestral. If you tap my profile thing on Wisdom, you could see where my work is. I've got some music videos on my YouTube channel as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you
Yeah,
mean
I'm always open to feedback.
like in your bio? You mean like if I once I get off, I touch your bio and it, or
Yeah,
touch your picture, and then you have a link
yeah,
that would bring me there?
yeah.
Yeah, I would. I will listen, and then I'll let you know. Would it put me in mind of, here I go with the media stereotype to not, was it Mozart? What is it? I'm getting his name confused. The big musician that everybody.
Mozart.
Yes. Would it put you in the mind of that, or like you say, you have your own originality?
It's my own originality, but I do get inspiration from those composers. But it's all
Mm,
original.
I would love it. I would love it. I'm going to look at that, and it'll tell me what your YouTube name is, all the information that I needed to just go in and listen.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. I know when I first saw your like your icon or whatever we call it on here. I said he is such a fun person. I seen that Superman cape with the wind blowing the cape up, and I just said, this guy seems like a fun guy. Let me stop and listen to him.
Sweet.
Yeah,
No, that's it. You know, it's called being original as
yeah,
well. Yeah, it's you know, just get your work out there, and have passion for what you believe in. You know,
yes, yeah,
but you're in Virginia, so it must be morning by the sounds
yes.
of it.
It
Is
is
that
eight
correct?
forty. It's 8:40 a.m. So what time is it in there for you?
For me, it's 10:40 p.m.
Oh
in the
my,
evening.
oh my.
I I just felt I don't know, something just told me just host a podcast tonight
Mm-hmm.
about what's been happening in Texas, and all this political drama
Mm.
that's going on.
Yeah, this like you say, this topic could just swirl you around. It would just keep you. We got to keep our minds safe. We really do. You never
Mm.
know. Just in a car setting. How do you when you drive? Do you just look forward? Do you look at all of your surrounding? Are you looking at the next car at the stoplight? How do you do? What do you do when you stop at stoplights? Do you? I look forward, and I may look to the side. I may swivel my head
Mhm.
around, but I'm mostly straightforward.
I look straight, but I check my mirrors,
Hmm.
um, and I try to concentrate as well. I
Yeah.
noticed too on the road there's a lot of impatient
Yes.
drivers too as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because I know my husband told me one time he was just him and another guy got off the freeway at the same time, and my husband didn't know what possibly could have happened because he was doing what he's supposed to do. They both got out, and he said the guy raised down his window and started being angry. I'm gonna follow you. Would you? And he was like, What is going on?" And I wouldn't advise my husband to do this, but my husband said, "Come on." He went to park. I was like, "What were you going to do? We don't know what he had. What is going on?" You got to
uh,
keep yourself safe.
yeah,
You don't know what people have on their mind or in their hand or nothing
yeah.
because they're
And
just
that's
not
what I
patient.
don't, and that's what I don't understand about driving on the road. People are just impatient. I just wonder why. What's going on?
Mm, yes.
You know.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I just basically listen to you. I don't know if you have another guest going up, but this has been great, great topic that you have there. And thanks for talking about mental health. Thanks for just taking the time to have us to just talk about it and all the things that I said. I know I'm learning as a people. I'm going to always say as a people that we just have to care for one another and to um, be that type of person, just a listener. I always tell my kids that when somebody comes to me, for example, if they have an issue, just say, for example, if they have an issue and I listen, I'm a great listener. But at the end of the listening, I'm the type of person that, okay, I heard your story, what you're going to do about it. So I might not be the candidate to just listen to and talk back like a psychiatrist would. I just want to know what we're going to do, what's the result.
Mm,
Whereas my other daughter, she's like, what happened? Well, how do you feel when this happened? And how do you feel when that happened? And so one of my other daughters and myself, we're like, what is it? What we going to do? What's the plan of
mm,
action? So I'm that type of listener like that. And if you're not going to do anything about it, let's not talk about it. I'll listen, but let's not talk about it if you just want to keep it, you know.
mm.
What are you like that? If you hear an issue, and are you the type that try to break the issue down, or want to know what's the root and what's the results?
I want to know what's the root and the result. I know when Black Lives Matter came out, I stayed out of that because it just became a huge political, I don't know, just to use it as a political thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting nowhere. It was quite sad, actually. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
every room in Clubhouse was talking about it, and those sorts of things I just stay away from
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, well, it's going to get nowhere.
Mm-hmm. I tried to stay away from it myself too, even being a person of color. I tried to stay away
Mm,
because I was raised in, like I say, I'm 60 years old, so it's like seeing it
mm,
around again. So I remember when Dr. King got killed. I remember the rioting and the looting, although I was like 6 or 7 years old. I remember that. And so when they said that, like, Black Lives Matter, not that other lives didn't matter, but just Black lives was never looked upon.
mm,
Looked upon. So I
yeah.
think that if they would have said Black Lives Matter too, with them not thinking that there was exclusion instead of included. But it just but what it did though, Stephen, coming from that
Mm,
era, like I said, what it did is it had us to talk about it. We've never
mm,
talked about it. So the conversation is always avoided. A lot of lives was lost, but we're talking about it. We're trying to
mm,
understand it. We're trying to say we need to come away from that and to say that, me being a person of color, that I'm going to be hated from the
mm,
rest of my life, and to feel bad about the choice that God has given me is to come here black. So I'm not going to have a fight
mm,
about my color, but I will have a conversation about, let's understand that um, black is not going away because I am black unless I'm dead,
mm,
but to be looked at as human as you are. So first see me as
mm,
human, then I shouldn't be identified as she's black and then Ellen. Address me as
mm,
Ellen, and I happen to be a person of color. I shouldn't be
mm.
identified by my race before I'm identified by who I am as a person. So that's my take on that.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And there was LA 92 with Rodney King. I watched the
Yes, I
documentary on
happen to
Disney
live
Plus.
in. Yes, I happen to live in California at the time, and we were military. Oh my gosh, the National Guard had their guns out. If you as much as sneeze,
Mm,
you were getting shot
yeah,
down. So we walked tiptoe, and I remember my kids, they were very young then. Why they got their guns out? What they gonna do?
yeah, yeah. That was a very nice conversation, Ellen, and I'd really like to say thank you for coming on the Stephen Shields radio show. It's really great to learn off you and Malcolm as well while I'm doing this podcast, the late night show. I don't normally go live at this time of the evening. I know it's morning for all my US listeners. But yeah, LA 92, there's a documentary on Disney Plus. Highly recommend to watch it. And that was a bad riot. Um, the LAPD were very corrupt at the time, and how they get away with this, oh, God knows, I don't know. And yeah, history is a very good teaching tool for us. You know, it was quite sad. And I was watching it, and yeah, yeah, it's something worth watching. But we have challenges that we have to deal uh, with the mental health crisis going on, and all you can do is just go and find your passion and find your true calling in life and be the person that you want to be. You know, if it's going to write music and publishing it, go for it. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear of rejection get in your way as well. So, I mean, that's a lot of problems I had too. Was I had a lot of fear, doubt, and anxiety as well. And myself, suffering from mild depression, autism. Yeah, I've had challenges too. Communication for one, so it's been harder for me to communicate. But I have a passion for creating content, and that's what keeps me going. I don't let it stop me from achieving my dreams and my goals as well. So when you have that true calling in life, go for it. Don't be afraid to upload that journal article or that track or that YouTube video. Don't be afraid of negative people who get jealous and put you down, because those people who are jealous of you and putting you down, they're the ones getting nowhere, and you be on top of the world, you know, and that's it. Well, for me during the pandemic, it was meditation. I used an app called Insight Timer. It's helped a lot with my mental health, especially affirmations. Did a few courses on Hay House on affirmations. Listened to Wayne Dyer. It was just something. Yeah, you needed something healthy like that. You know, being able to go to a yoga class in 2 years has been amazing. You know, and it's nice to just go to a yoga class with people outside, outdoors, in the fresh air, instead of using my iPhone app, you know, and getting outside in nature as well is what I've done, because nature is a powerful tool, you know. So I wonder how the world's going to be with this pandemic. We can either let it stop us from achieving what we want, or we can say, right, we can get stronger and move on and look at ways to, you know, have self-growth. Because self-growth is very important, in my opinion, as well as manifestation, gratitude, affirmations, and yoga, breath work at the same time. But clearly, yes, there is a mental health crisis. That's all about what you know, feed your mind and how you look after yourself. because the mass media will just bombard you with negative emotions and false advertising as well. You know that. So we'll wait and see. You become the best you. Okay. You find where you want to go. You have your 5-10 year goal. And, don't let other people stop you from achieving your dreams and your goals and your hopes and your will and your passion in life. So that's how I see it. But I want to say thank you to all my guests who stopped by today on Wisdom. I'm about to go to bed right now, so I thought I'd do a late night talk show. It's about 11 p.m. Don't normally go live at this time of the evening, but something just told me you just got to have a podcast. So I thought I'll do it. And guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the Stephen Shields radio show and turn on your notifications wherever you get a new podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. I've got videos on Rumble now as well. And guys, I highly recommend Insight Timer as a meditation app, because Insight Timer has, helped me, with my mental health and my struggles that I've had. And the amazing teachers on that platform is amazing. So I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. Don't forget, if you're looking for royalty-free music, you can purchase my work on Pond5. And if you'd like just to have my work just for your own entertainment, there's Bandcamp as well. I'll leave all links in the description. And if you're looking to monetize your content on social media, Webtalk has helped me grow online and be able to promote my work as well. This was really awesome tonight's episode as well. I've got a Patreon, a Redbubble, and a TeePublic store if you'd like to support me with merchandise. Also, too, if you subscribe to the podcast and if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, it really helps the show grow as well. Share any of your favorite episodes on your social media. And, feel free to, stop by, say hi on Wisdom if you want to be on the podcast, because this is, obviously I record this show on Wisdom and then it goes live on the podcast. And I wish all my US audience a good morning and a good day to you. Right now, I'm all the way in Sydney, Australia. I'm about to go to bed. And take care, everyone. Keep working hard. Bye for now.